The cabin lights flickered. A dull popping sound echoed beneath the floor. Then came the smoke, thin at first, seeping like mist under the seats. It carried a chemical tang, sharp, wrong. A few passengers turned their heads, confused. Then came the coughing. A woman stood up, looked toward the back, and asked a flight attendant if something was burning. The flight attendant didn't answer. In the cockpit, the first officer's voice broke through the radio. "We need to get back to Miami. We're on fire." The tower responded, but there was no reply. The radio had gone silent. Flight 592 departed just after 2 p.m. on May 11, 1996. Destination, Atlanta. Weather, clear. Altitude, climbing. Beneath the passengers' feet, inside the forward cargo hold, sat a collection of sealed cardboard boxes. Inside the boxes, expired oxygen generators, loaded without caps, labeled empty, stored next to tires and rags. The hold had no fire suppression system. The temperature inside was already rising. The boxes weren't supposed to be there. They weren't supposed to be on a passenger flight. And they weren't supposed to hiss. But they did. At 10,000 feet, a thud shook the floor. Then another. The passengers barely noticed. But down below, one of the oxygen canisters had ignited. It burned at nearly 1,200 degrees. The fire fed on the rags, the tires, the oxygen itself. Smoke surged into the wiring ducts. Lights dimmed. Alarms failed. The pilots saw the cabin pressure gauges twitch, then drop. The intercom crackled, then died. The controls lagged as smoke spilled through the avionics bay into the cockpit. The captain tried to turn back toward Miami, but the plane wasn't listening anymore. In the cabin, the smoke rolled up the aisle like a wave. Passengers screamed. Others couldn't. They were choking. A man tore off his shirt and held it to his wife's face. A child stood on her seat, calling for her mother, who had already collapsed. A woman tried to force open an overhead bin to reach her inhaler. Another tried to break a window with her shoe. The lights flickered again, then went dark. In the cockpit, smoke filled the space until the instrument panel was barely visible. The captain's hands slipped on the controls. Warning tones blared, too many at once. The air grew hot, acrid. The oxygen masks didn't drop. There wasn't time. The plane was banking hard. The flight recorder captured one last sound, a scream, and then nothing. The DC-9 hit the Everglades at more than 500 miles per hour. Nose first, no flare, no glide. The fuselage shattered on contact, disappearing into the muck. There was no fireball, no trail of debris, just a sudden, violent splash and stillness. From the air, the swamp looked undisturbed. It took search crews hours to locate the site. When they arrived, they found only fragments, pieces the size of a backpack. No wings, no engines, no cabin. The water was thick with jet fuel and shredded metal. Alligators circled. The sun was setting. Recovery teams wore waders and sifted the wreckage by hand. They found human remains by the ounce, bits of bone, clothing, a melted wedding ring, a baby's sock. Nothing was intact. The plane hadn't crashed. It had disintegrated. An investigator stood waist-deep in the swamp, holding the only recognizable item, a yellow life vest, never inflated. He whispered, "It's like the whole plane just vanished." Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.